Hello again to all our listeners out there. Did you hear me? Up here in the Boom Boom Room, going for episode number 12, a Dirty Dozen. Here tonight with the sheriff.
Yeah.
Hey, with a recovering PackMan.
Just trying to survive.
That's it.
And our special guest that we're happy to have, a faithful listener of the show, and our first t-shirt buyer. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
I am
It
the
is.
OG
He is.
t-shirt buyer.
Yeah.
CNN.
Hello everybody. I'm here.
He is here, straight from the ATL today.
That's right. Had to battle MARTA. Almost died on the MARTA, but made it here in time.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that, because it's anytime you get on the MARTA, take your life in your own hands for a lot of different reasons. But,
Yeah.
First of all, because I don't want him to get warm, and I know the PackMan's ready to get into the drink of the week. Ready to get into the drink of the week. What'd you bring us tonight there, CNN?
Yeah, so I brought Gate City Brewing Copperhead Lager. It's a Roswell beer. Don't really know much about it, and then apparently I took my wife there on one of our first dates.
What do you mean apparently?
That's what she says. You know, I'm not much of a drinker. I just remember us having a wonderful time, and I knew she was the one then. So,
but you don't know where you were.
But I don't remember where I was. No, I just remember had a beer in my hand. I was drinking. I thought it was pretty tasty.
Yeah, so you were so mesmerized by
absolutely
Mrs. CNN.
Yeah, the future Mrs. CNN.
I think you pulled a Scott Bobby. I'm calling hogwash on that.
No. So yeah, we went to a fine establishment here in Athens. Not a sponsor yet. Guess we can't give them the name out there. But yeah, Gate City.
You can give a free pub. It's all
No, we shouldn't do things for free. It's not good business decisions.
All right.
So yeah, Gate City Copperhead Lager out of Roswell.
All right.
So, cracking things open. Yeah. Pack is salivating right now.
If I don't touch another beer for a year, I'll be just fine.
We've all said that, haven't we?
But here we go anyway.
All right.
Cheers to Stinky Beck.
Cheers.
Out.
Cheers. Crack 'em open. My tab broke. I've never seen that before.
Still beat me to it.
Tab broke in the middle on the pop.
That finger strength.
I guess.
Hey.
Need to get that thumb wrestling.
Handsy.
Yeah. It's not bad. It's got a little like brown ale taste to it.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
boy.
It's pretty good. Making me see hearts, kind of like when you were looking in the eyes of Miss CNN.
That's
I better not look
right.
at y'all dead on after drinking this.
That's right. That's right.
A lot of love in the air after the sheriff is struggling.
All right.
Still has not gotten his drink in the
There we
koozie.
go. Got some lip action going on the side there.
There you go. So,
That's good.
just so everybody knows, had a little Christmas get together last night, and PackMan has had a good time. We'll say that. He was a great host.
He's the best host.
Just paying for it a little bit today,
Paying for it a lot today.
but we thank you for powering through and coming here with your.
I'm here, just trying to survive.
Yeah, we appreciate that. So, but it was a good time, and him and Doc Lolliday were a great host. We enjoyed our time, and it's always good to get together with some old friends. But CNN, you went to the Falcons game today.
I did.
For you, it wasn't the Falcons game, was it?
It was not. It was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game for me. So
that's where you're from.
Yeah, just give a little backstory on me. I am from Florida. I'm not from here. Grew up in Tampa. The streets of Tampa is what I like to say. Turned me into the man.
Cigar City.
That's right. And the pub sub capital of the world.
The pub sub capital, right?
It is.
Publix.
That's right.
Okay.
Another
You
future
throw
sponsor.
you throw a rock, you'll hit at least 3 Publixes down there.
Nice.
That's right. That's,
Claim to
my,
fame.
that's my first job too as a bag boy. Well, we're getting a little off topic. Anyways,
He's carrying the show. We need you.
Yeah.
grew up in Tampa, and
Did you date Jen Sturger?
funny story. I know her. She went to my high school.
Ooh.
Just for those that don't know, Jen Sturger was the reporter for the Jets and the recipient of Brett Favre's dick pic.
Whoa! She went to your high school?
Yeah,
Is she not the Florida State girl?
She is the Florida State girl.
We need her on the podcast immediately.
I had a Christmas party at her house that we went to. So I mean, her and my brother were closer friends, but she knew me. She was actually in band at my high school. She was the
One time at band camp.
the drum major,
Yeah, late bloomer.
and she was still blooming in high school.
Okay.
But yeah,
Here first.
but
Blooming.
but she
I like it.
yeah. So I tell people all the time that I am friends with a Playboy model because she was a Playboy model all the time. But
Was she?
She,
I don't know the history on this lady.
I promise you she was.
I'm not doubting you. I just had no idea.
Her claim to fame is Brett Favre. But
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
So, so yeah, I knew her. She went to my high school and all that. So grew up in Tampa, and then went to Florida State for 4 years. Got my degree there. So that is why I'm a Florida State fan. I grew up as a Florida State fan. In the early to mid 2000s, so not the best time to be a Florida State fan, but that's when I became one, and then I've been one ever since.
They're back.
Ish, yeah, they are this year for sure.
We're gonna get there. Don't worry. Don't worry. Want to finish up with your trip today? So you you took an interesting route to get there. You took MARTA. Not a lot of people do that I know.
Yeah, so
because it's MARTA.
Yeah.
A lot of urine. A lot of potential stabbings.
Yes.
Okay.
So
shout out MARTA.
So if you know me, if you've ever been around, if you've ever been around me, I am one cheap person. I waited for the tickets to get down to $25 today for me to finally buy one.
Nice.
Little squeaky guy over here.
And instead of me spending $30 on a parking pass down by Mercedes Benz, I was like, I'll spend the $12 to take the MARTA. MARTA.
She'll still have the $18 difference.
That's right, So I take the MARTA down to stadium, no problem. On the way back, we stopped at the Doraville one, which is the very last stop on the goal line, or the first stop, depending on how you look at it. And we are on the way to the last stop, and then you hear a ka-ching. And the 5 of us in the train look at each other like, what the heck was just that? And then all of a sudden we start feeling the train tilt to the side.
Oh, man.
And we are not on ground level, gentlemen. We are a good 20 feet above the ground. And I thought I said under my breath that I'm not going to die on this train. But apparently everybody on the train did. And that little old Asian lady in front of us got just as scared as I did. Sat down, the lady, and then...
A lot of prayers.
Yes, yes, very much. And the conductor, or whoever it is, was able to get us to the Doraville station, which was literally maybe another minute train ride, and she started screaming at us to get off the train and that the train was now out of service.
It's like a movie.
I was
like Speed 4.
Yeah.
It was slightly terrifying.
MARTA did not win. Who won the game?
Oh, the Bucks. Bucks, guys.
We're not a Falcon show because they don't deserve our talking, but they gave the game to the Bucks today.
Yeah.
How did our friend there with names that might come with tendons, Curtis Baker Mayfield, do?
He didn't turn the ball over 4 times like Desmond Ritter did.
That's right.
And I think that's mostly why the Falcons lost.
Falcons quarterback Desmond Ritter, who I'm not a fan of, has Butterfingers.
Yeah.
Can't hold to the ball and wants to throw it to the other team.
He does
all the time.
A lot.
Turn it over.
Yeah, I think going into the second half, the Bucks had 85 yards of offense, and they were winning 12-10.
That's right.
Oh, wow.
So, we've given you a hard time about taking MARTA, but if you think about it, any of those parking spaces around Mercedes-Benz, you're literally a stone's throw away from the Bluff.
Shout out
to the Bluff, which is probably, I don't know, we'll say the heroin capital of
the Southeast.
South. Yeah, Southeast literally is. I mean, it's one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in Atlanta, and it's in the shadow of Mercedes-Benz. PackMan and I, when we took the little packet to the game that we've talked about several times on the show,
As a couple?
We ended up walking, as some people said.
Yep.
Ended up walking through part of the.
Had to.
Because of a closed restaurant that Google did not tell us was not open
yet. What was it? It was a Flying.
We were Flying Bird Cafe.
Flying Biscuit.
Flying Biscuit, sorry.
Yeah.
Flying Biscuit, yeah.
It's there. The building's there.
But it's not open yet, so that
opening
was
soon.
Opening
But
soon.
there's nobody inside.
So we had to take a shortcut.
A detour to find another breakfast spot.
It was not Nikolai's roof, was it?
No, it was not Nikolai's roof.
Luckily, it was about 9 in the morning, and the neighborhood was not astir yet.
There you go.
That's right.
Not an early rising neighborhood.
That's a shout out to Steve Harvey for saying that Mayfield has 3 black names. I need to be more direct. I need to be more direct on the podcast.
Okay, all right. That was your first visit to the Mercedes-Benz?
That was my very first one. So that stadium is unreal. It's nothing like any other stadium I've been to, and I've been to quite a bit of football and baseball stadiums.
Have you been to the Cowboy Stadium?
I have not. I'm sure it's very similar.
It's similar, but it's an updated version.
Yeah, like I've driven
But
by it when they were
similar-
building it.
It's a similar interior layout, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Was the roof open or?
No, they had it closed because
Oh, it's
it
'cause
was
of the rain.
slightly raining outside. So, but when I bought the tickets, I was really excited because I thought getting tickets for $25 in row 26 in the upper level would be pretty good seats. Gentlemen, there's only 26 rows in the upper level, so we were at the very top
And
of that
please.
place. We were basically above the scoreboards.
What a lucky lady, Miss CNN.
That's right.
She
And-
gets $25 tickets, a nosebleed,
To damn near
and,
die.
yeah, almost fell off the martyr rail.
So yeah, and
Just swept her off of her feet.
and I love her to death. She came. She did not complain one bit. She may have been on Instagram and playing games the whole game, but you know what? She kept me company and
right.
didn't make me look like a loser sitting by myself.
Yeah,
so
she's a softball supporter too. Shout out.
that's right. That's right. She's more there to make sure the dog stays busy,
and
but
the,
you know.
the diaper-eating dog. Yeah.
Yeah, he's still doing that.
I will say, though, your dog is quite impressive because the dog, it might have been, because I was in the outfield, so it wasn't the sheriff who hit the home run.
Wasn't the deputies?
But the other team hit a home run because we had a lot hit off of us. And the dog,
They all run together.
your dog, caught the ball on one bounce
That's right.
in the mouth and then wouldn't get the ball back.
Yeah. That's one thing he's good at is catching balls. You can throw
Balls.
them all. Anything around balls, whether he sees a
Yeah, anything around balls,
Yeah.
paws.
funny story about balls and my dog.
This is a family show, man.
Well, we've already had a dick pic reference.
So
Go with it.
you know the lovely parade that we had here this last week.
Yes, I'm aware of
Well, of course
Christmas parade in downtown Athens.
anytime there's an event like that, I try to get my dog out to socialize him and get him out of the house because if he's penned up, he turns into a devil.
Okay.
And so I got him out of the house. We were walking, I think, on Washington Street, and we saw our Leo friends there.
Mhm.
They were driving the two-wheeled bikes.
Okay.
They weren't on them yet, but they were about ready to go. My dog saw them.
Stretchy pants.
Very in tight shirts.
Swole.
And my dog ran over and may have punched one of them in the crotch right before they had to go on the parade.
Oh,
And
cup
one of
check.
them, and they specifically went for the chief. So, yeah, he's not a clean fighter. I can tell you that.
That's good.
Straight to the top.
That's it.
Straight to the top.
Shoot for the moon.
Well, I don't know how this is going to go. I don't know.
The FCC needs to be
Yeah.
aware.
We asked CNN, or PackMan did specifically ask CNN to come on this week because, as everybody knows, we had some really terrible prognostication. Hold on, I can't even say it. This week.
Prognostication.
We had some really terrible takes.
Terrible takes last week before the championship games and also on the playoffs. We had some terrible takes. I think one of the listeners commented how funny it was to listen to how bad we were.
Yeah.
Oh,
It was,
well,
yeah, it was,
fair enough.
I may not agree with what you guys say, but you know, it's just.
Oh, it was bad.
We're
It
on a
was bad.
skid right now.
Yeah.
But we've never been accurate from the beginning, so at least our track record
That's
is
right.
straight and true. But we asked you to come on before we even knew the real reason we should have you on as a Florida State representative. So just to catch everybody up, because I know we have a few people who tolerate the sports ball talk on our show. The playoffs happened. Georgia lost last week to Alabama, which threw everything into chaos. Because you were left with 3 undefeated teams, conference champions, and that being Michigan in the Big Ten, Washington in the Pac-12, which came out to be 1 and 2 in the playoff rankings. Top 4 teams were selected for the playoffs for the national championship. And then you were left with a lot of debate from this secretive college football playoff committee.
Colt.
Oh.
You can call them a cult.
I refer to them as the Empire.
There you go.
So
the Illuminati, whatever.
So these playoffs have been going on since what, like 16, 15, 16?
14.
Okay,
14.
So every year they have these members on this committee. There's You've done the research. How many members are there?
I believe there's 12,
Okay.
13.
And they cycle on after every couple of years,
Yeah.
cycle in and out. There are people that are supposed to be involved with college football, and they get in this room, nobody's allowed in, and they do their arguing and voting and rankings, and they come up with the top 4 teams. So they were left with 2 spots with a lot of teams. You had Georgia, who had just lost in a national not national, well, actually some may argue,
Good Freudian slip there.
CNN, that it was a national championship game. I'll let you respond in a minute. They played Alabama, lost by 3 points. So you had Georgia with 1 loss in a championship game, undefeated regular season. You had Alabama, who just won their conference over the number 1 team by beating Georgia.
Also with 1 loss.
Yes, and that loss was to
Texas.
early in the year, about week 4, week 3.
Yeah, we talked about it in previous episodes.
And Texas won their championship game, so they had 1 loss.
Shout out to the number 1-1.
Yeah. So you basically had 3 teams, because Ohio State had 1 loss, but they didn't make it to a championship game. Like, they didn't have a really good argument to get in. So you had 3 teams, 2 spots. 4 teams, sorry,
Yeah, I was
4
gonna
teams,
say.
2 spots. Math is
forget-
hard.
Hey,
We're
it's
forgetting
a
free
rough
shoes.
day.
Let's not do
Oh,
that.
I'm sorry.
A 90s reference.
So Florida State was the 4th team that, in my mind, I thought I'd already talked about because CNN's here. They won their conference championship with their 3rd string quarterback
Yes.
because the star of the team, I don't even know his name. What's his name?
His name is Jordan Travis, and he's just a star of the team.
He was
Not
I see what he did
He was the
there.
quarterback. He broke his leg a couple
Most
weeks
important
ago.
position, maybe. How about
Unfortunately,
that?
very good player. I didn't know his name. He's a very good player.
Yeah.
And then the backup quarterback suffered a concussion the week before the championship game. So they're with their 3rd string quarterback. Well, what happened? You won.
Yeah, they did
So
everything.
undefeated.
They did everything they were supposed to do.
And then let me finish this and I'll let you do it.
Yeah.
And then I'm catching everybody up because I know my mom doesn't know what we're talking about yet. So once I get Mama Sleazy caught up, we're good to go.
Come on, Mama
So
Sleazy. Sports ball.
the playoff committee comes out. Michigan number 1, Washington number 2. No arguments from anybody. Number 3, they put in Texas, and number 4, they put in Alabama, both with 1 loss, and they moved Florida State to number 6 behind Georgia at number 5. We're going to have that backwards.
Yeah,
You got
Yeah,
it backwards,
backwards.
which is even more ridiculous
Yes.
with their logic. But we'll get into that.
So
I'm sure,
undefeated
too.
ACC champion on the outside looking in, and the argument was they are not as good without their quarterback. Is that pretty much it?
Yeah.
Go ahead, CNN. We're just going to stay
Yeah,
back
so-
for 30 minutes and let
Yep.
you rant.
So,
Go ahead.
Yeah. So the argument that they used was the whole Jordan Travis being injured, which I agree. Jordan Travis not being in there as a quarterback does change the landscape, at least of their offense. Because Jordan Travis is a dynamic player. Even by missing the pretty much last 3 games, he still finished 5th in Heisman voting. So he is a very good player. But what I don't understand and what is really, they still did everything they were supposed to do. They still won all their games. They still won their games in a legit conference. They still won their games. To be honest, winning with a 3rd string quarterback in an ACC championship game with everything to lose and still winning, that's more impressive than just going out there with your 1st string and just winning handily. And to be honest, in the last 2 weeks of, I got my notes here, guys.
Oh my goodness.
In the last 2 weeks,
Ready to bring the news. Ready to fact check them. We're Fox News. Go ahead.
So since Travis got hurt, so he got hurt in the middle of that
No, we
North
got
Alabama
notes.
game.
Yeah, lay
Oh
it
yeah,
down.
don't worry, man. I don't know what's. I'm in the stage of grief, anger, and I think I'll just stay there for the rest of my life over this.
Do it.
So since Jordan Travis got hurt, and you go through the end of the championship game, where are my notes? They only had 8 less passing yards than Michigan did.
Okay.
Michigan has a 1st string quarterback who was, in a lot of people's eyes, a Heisman guy. He actually had, I think, 8 votes in the first place of a Heisman, which is ridiculous to begin with. So you're saying that a whole team is defined by 1 player. No, they are not. Because if you watch that same game against Louisville, the defense, they had 7 sacks, 14 tackles for losses, 10 passes defended, and had only like 200 yards rushing against Louisville. And Louisville is a legit offense.
I need
They
to
were
walk
a
off
top.
the set if we're doing notes and
Yeah,
all this jazz.
I mean Louisville is a legit offense. They were a top 20
Okay, all
offense.
right, let's
So-
pause there. Let's
Louis,
pause.
Louis, I will give
Because
you
I don't want to get too far
Louisville's
behind
offense.
in counter arguments here.
Yeah, we didn't bring any notes either.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because I want to go ahead and preface. This is CNN's opinion, and we're here to fact check him.
I like
Are
it.
we saying that Louisville is that good of a team?
when they're the best team the SEC has won, I think they're a pretty good team.
Say that again.
So the SEC has touted that they're the best conference in the land. This
have
year, they were 7-9 against Power 5 schools, and
and
their best win was against Louisville.
all right, you done lost me there.
So
Well,
So,
hey,
to
say-
respond.
If you're going to go head to head with the conferences, then and I understand. Don't get me started on the seeding. We've already talked about Amber Heard and crap in the bed, and that the seeding, the whole problem with this system is that the seeding is fluid, and then it never gets to be played out, for lack of a better term. And I think that's what Pack said about 3 weeks ago, and I'm sticking to it. But it's not the one seed in the SEC playing the one seed in the ACC. It could be, like in this instance this year, Florida, who was, I think, second to last place in front of Vanderbilt, playing the
Florida
first place
State,
team
yeah.
in the ACC.
Right.
So, to me, the head-to-heads would only matter if it was the same seed in either conference, if that makes sense to everybody.
I think what you're trying to say is the SEC is very top heavy. The top of the SEC is in the upper echelon of football.
Correct. But there's still parity with all other conferences.
Right. So if Vanderbilt
The rest of
loses
the SEC.
an
yeah.
out-of-conference game, that doesn't hold as much like water as what you're saying. Like as what Nick is saying, that SEC law is 7-9 in out-of-conference games. But what you're saying is, yeah, we've got some crappy SEC teams
Correct.
that will lose out-of-conference games.
And they're playing a quote-unquote higher seed or a better team or whatever
Right.
you want. That I'm totally with CNN up until that point that we're talking about basically conferences playing at random instead of actually setting it up and seeding it. I'm not against actually doing that. And then
So-
Alabama has to play
Your
Clemson or
in your list of
Florida
notes,
State.
do you have what the ACC was out of conference?
they were, I think, 12-10.
Okay.
They were, I believe they were second place.
Yeah, behind I think the
The
Pac-12.
Pac-2 was,
Pac-2, yeah.
But I'm
was
gonna
numero uno.
let's shrink this down to the team, because I will give Florida State credit because they did beat LSU.
Mm-hmm. To beat Heisman Trophy winning LSU.
Man, that's a whole other conversation that we can have at some point. But they did play LSU and beat LSU, and LSU is a decent team.
They were a 5 seed at the time in the AP poll. Excuse me. Go ahead, Lee.
No,
Please.
that's where I was getting at. They did play a good team, and they did beat the good team. I don't think anybody argued with that.
They played the games on their schedule and
Yep.
won them all. That's what I would go with.
Yeah, what else can you do?
Yeah, I mean they couldn't. It wasn't like 2014 Florida State where they were an undefeated team and they ended up getting seeded third. But the problem with the 2014 team is that every game they were coming from behind and had to win it last minute. That didn't exist with this Florida State team. They may get down in the first quarter, but then by the end of the third quarter they had it handed. The only close game that they really had was Boston College. It was 31-29, and they almost blew that lead.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, you can argue, yes, all the players on Florida State's team had the flu, but still, okay, yeah, you should still win that game much better.
Here we go.
But still, it wasn't like 2014 for
Flu
Florida State.
game.
Yes.
Yeah. Rumor has it from my insiders, Georgia had the flu the whole week of the game in Atlanta. But that, if you're going to strap it on,
Inside
Right. I mean, even if Florida State lost that game, I mean, absolutely, I'm in agreement that they shouldn't.
I understand what you're saying. It makes sense why they played the way they played when you, after the game and you're debriefing and you hear this guy's sick, that guy's sick, the coach was sick. I would say the same for Georgia, that it makes sense how lethargic they were, if indeed they were sick. But again, if you're going to strap it on, then play the game.
So-
if not, just wait another day.
So I think what's frustrating for your fan base, and also I share the frustration. Well, I really don't have a dog in this fight since the dogs,
Got the boot way down.
well, they got put in a situation where they had to win, even though it was a tight game. They had to win that game to have an argument to get in.
Mm-hmm.
Your school, Florida State, could not have done anything more.
Right.
Other than not have their quarterback.
be injured.
Not
Yeah.
have the quarterback split his
So
leg in half.
the argument from the committee is that because your quarterback's injured, then you're not going to be as competitive. And again, that's their argument.
And that's my problem, is that they're basing it on what they think will happen as opposed to letting it actually play out.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it bothers me, because when they're using that argument, but at the end of the day, what are they doing it for? They're doing it for ratings and TV and money. Is really ultimately what they're doing it for.
And I was hoping we get into that because I think they kind of showed their hand on what their actual mantra is behind closed doors. But from a fan perspective, do I agree with that? So I think the committee is given the task to give the best draw with the argument that they can make. I don't think they want Washington in there.
Yeah, if
At the
there was
end of
a
the
way,
day, but there's no way to say Washington can't be in there. They would have much rather had Oregon sneak in
Right.
there. From a watchability, ratings, in my opinion, I think that's good. And as a fan, I want to see the best teams.
Well, my argument.
So it's hard.
was-
It's hard to go. They
ahead,
talk
sir.
out of they talk out of both sides of their mouth, their nose, nostrils, their eye sockets, and their ear holes.
And the other hole on the Catucus.
Because they want to
the
say,
butthole.
they want to say all these things matter, and then they back themselves in a corner where they wanted Alabama in. They wanted the SEC in, and when Alabama won, it threw everything.
They
out of
wanted
there.
Georgia to win because
They
that
did.
would have made
Made
it
it easy.
That would-
easy.
If
All
Georgia
undefeated
wins, Florida
teams.
State's in.
Yeah,
Correct.
I agree. Yeah.
No, I disagree with that.
You don't think
I
so?
think they would have put in Texas.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't. I think
I think they only put in Texas because they felt so hypocritical from their head-to-head talk that
I
agree with that, yeah.
all year the head-to-head matters, and they had ranked Texas ahead of Alabama the whole year. That if they did not put Texas in with Alabama, then they were going to look worse than they have in this situation.
Yeah, because as soon as they realized we have to have an SEC team in there, because I've been doing some research and reading around, is
I
that
bet you have.
the
lot of research.
ESPN has financial contracts with the ACC and the SEC. They
Okay.
are the media partner for those two conferences. However, their contract with the SEC more than doubles that of the ACC. Okay, so if they have an SEC's team in there as opposed to or if they have an ACC team in there as opposed to an SEC team, they're out approximately $150 to $200 million because of advertising and viewership. Okay, so they're going to be losing that amount of money. So when that means that the SEC has to be in there for money rights, because at the end of the day, who runs college football? It's going to be ESPN and Fox.
Right.
Because if you look at the top 12 teams, as it lies right now, every team but Florida State is an SEC or Big Ten team or a future SEC or Big Ten team.
Mhm.
And that's ultimately what's going to run college football. And it sucks because Florida State isn't in there, but that's just how it's going to be. And that's what the committee was saying to Florida State. And I think it just happened to be Florida State. It could have been any other non-SEC or Big Ten team. I don't think this is the committee screwing Florida State because it is Florida State. It just happened. They just happened to be in the crosshairs.
Your argument is that it's becoming a Big Two.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's going to be Big Ten and SEC, and it's not so much because of the quality of the teams in those conferences. It's because of the money that's invested into those conferences. So, like, for example, Florida State, they get a yearly payout from ESPN around $37 to $40 million a year. The SEC and the Big Ten get anywhere from $75 to $80 million per year, no matter if you're Vanderbilt or if you're Georgia. That's a
You talking
heck
per team?
per team.
Okay.
No matter how good you are and whatnot. So they have such a financial stake in the SEC that they cannot leave it out, because they're going to be out $150 million at the least.
But ESPN doesn't pick the 4 teams.
They do.
I mean,
So-
I
I like that, Pat.
Yeah.
I like what you did there.
So tell me this. So I'm sitting there on Sunday and I'm watching this show.
Oh God, are you gonna the helmets in the back?
Conspiratorial.
Here we go.
Nicholas.
And here's the thing, guys, is I hate conspiracy theories. I really do. There's very few I believe. I do not want the tinfoil hat
You
on
don't
my
like listening
head.
to Alien Ricky?
I don't.
Oh.
I mean, I believe they exist, sure, but not this. Not all this.
Come on, give us the tea.
You know, I'm sitting there and I'm watching the show, and they show the 6 teams that are in contention, and they got Laura Rutledge at Georgia, Marty Smith at Alabama, some other big ESPN guy at Michigan, some big ESPN person at Washington. Then they got this slappy Harry Styles or whatever his name is at Florida State that nobody's ever heard of, and I'm like, who the heck is this guy? But they got Marty Smith, the country boy of the South, there at Alabama. Okay, well, that's a little odd. And then Kirk Herbstreit comes on, and he's got the 4 helmets behind him in the exact order
A little psychological
that,
warfare.
that the committee's going to announce them to. And then, if you were paying attention to Vegas, through that morning, about maybe an hour and about 30 minutes before.
Check the notes.
30 minutes before that show goes live. That show goes live. Florida State has an 85% chance of being in the playoff. 10 minutes before that show goes live, it goes down to 15%. So what did Vegas hear? Isn't this committee supposed to be super secretive? Is ESPN supposed to only hear about it when we hear about it?
But they got to put the graphics in.
Yeah, it's not some slappy in the back room. It's the only one that knows who it is. They all know who it is. And it's frustrating because...
Slappy.
Yeah, well... Yeah, poor Brian in the background that said, "Oh, I got this envelope. I'm just going to put them up there." No,
I'm sure that's what he
knows.
does.
So,
one guy in the truck knows, and no one else knows. I would agree with that. But what sports book was that, or you just?
I don't know.
Overall?
I can't remember. I forgot exactly what sports book, but it was some sports book in Vegas.
They made some money on that, man.
Yeah,
But they do that. My argument, not necessarily against what you're saying, is they do that. That's why I think, and we talked about this on a previous episode, is I will argue all day long that the stock exchange and gambling is about one and the same, because each system they're cooking the books to some extent. Are you going to randomly win so that they can keep you around? Yes, but they're like Sleezy says, they got the marble floors and the fountains and everything else. They're going to win more than you are.
Oh, yeah. They got people that they know that will feed them information that only they know.
Yeah.
And that's how when you start seeing lines changing.
ESPN is down there. Let's just say it. They're down for that life.
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
no doubt. So, this being the last year of the 4 teams, do you think the 12 teams is going to change anything? Obviously, Florida State would have been in with 12 teams, but... It's gonna, I've said it on the show before, that's my fear with the 12-team playoff. It's gonna be Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, Georgia as a homer. They're still gonna get thrown in there every year because they want those marquee teams. And the argument's always gonna be the same one that was made this time. Well, we were looking for the best teams, not the ones that necessarily earned.
Well, what do they say? Most deserving.
Yeah, most deserving, maybe not the ones that earned. Because I agree with you, Florida State couldn't have done anything else other than not call that play that got that guy's, it just by happenstance got his leg broke.
Well, blow everybody out, but that's...
Yeah, but I think even then, there's
no team has done that.
There is no way they were leaving out an SEC team. And from a football fan, I would have been livid if there wasn't an SEC team in there.
I'd been fine with
it. Well, that would have left a spot open for your undefeated Noles. I just don't... Again, we can argue about the middle and the bottom of the conference, but I think the top third of the SEC is tough. And it's so hard because they lost to Texas so early in the year in the head-to-head. Yeah, I get it. It matters.
Of course it matters.
It matters, but it's not the same team. I don't know.
Then why play the game?
I agree. I think because you have to watch, and I'm all over the place on this.
Talking out of both sides of your mouth, are you down there?
But they make it that way, and it makes them money because we have all our sponsors here making money off of us because we're having such interesting conversation about this. Got a Just for Men
Ryan
Day game day kit displayed up here that I came away with from the Christmas party last night.
Very tall listener gave it to you.
Yeah, it's I think jet black is the color. It's Brian Day's specialty. So we got that up there, but you know, that's what they want. They want everybody to talk about this because at the end of the day, they don't want it.
I remember that.
It's not settled on the field.
I want the audience to hear what Pack just said.
I was wondering where you got that.
Amnesia going on over
That
here.
just for men box, bro. I do not even remember it.
Yeah, during the gift session that you were emceeing,
I know.
Yeah.
That's part of why my voice sounds the way it does.
you were
now.
yelling. Yes,
Yeah.
did a great job.
Yeah, thank you. I don't
That's it.
remember. But just for me.
That's all right.
Well, it's here.
He
Yeah.
looked sharp with his Christmas shirt on, bow tie, three-piece suit. Pack and Doc Lawler, they were on it.
All right, so putting all the arguments aside and putting your homerism aside,
Can't do it.
you can't do it, and I can't. We all can't do it to some extent. But would you rather see, as a football fan, Alabama play Michigan or Florida State with their third string? Well, I guess the second string will be back by then. Second string quarterback play Michigan. As a fan, yes, you want your school to be there. I'm just saying, as a football fan.
So as a fan, Florida State hasn't been any good since 2015. Like, I mean, they've been average, but then they went down for a while. And even during that time, I still always believed it should be most deserving. It should not be the best teams. So with that logic, when Florida State was down, I would still say Florida State, Michigan.
Okay.
And really, they should have been the 3 seed.
I'm not
Should
saying
have
you're
been
wrong. It's
playing.
one your opinion.
Who do you think
He's
should
right.
have been the 4 seed?
It should have been,
Texas.
in my opinion, it should have been Washington, Michigan, Florida State, Texas.
That's
I'm
the
with you
four
on
I
that.
had.
I think they gave Michigan way too much credit for their schedule because the bottom 3/4 of the Big Ten is bad
Well,
right now.
Big Ten, all they got is Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, depending on who they play. And even then, I'm not a Penn State guy.
Nah,
The old
And that-
Mark Richter, the North.
that's right.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you want to compare Big Ten to ACC, what conference is better? I would say they're about the same when it comes to the actual quality of teams, at least this year.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
argue with you on that.
Nobody's running away with it this year, and I know everybody's slave to the moment. And now, you asked who ran the committee. I was going to say there's a certain coach that runs that committee, and I like to call him Satan. But
Talking about Nick Saban there,
Nick Satan.
you
But
think as
yeah,
long as he's alive, they'll always have it in,
Well-
give him the advantage?
I don't want to steal any notes off of CNN's phone there, but
I'll let you borrow.
they are the only team that lost their rivalry game to get in. They are the highest ranked 2-loss team. They are now a team that forced Texas in because they beat them. And again, everybody's slave to the moment, and they think this Milroe kid is Lamar Jackson, which is the dumbest thing.
Yeah.
And our coach, our lovely receding hairline coach, even said it. And I wanted to throw something at my TV, but
Had a meal.
Do remember that was still young in the evening. I do remember
Breaking news.
Yeah, watching Kirby Smart walk into the place for dinner last night
On Broad
around
Street?
7:00.
well, he thought the guy was Lamar Jackson. I don't. My child could have thrown a few better passes than his first probably 5 series against Georgia. And again, I don't think that was Georgia's best effort by no means, but it is what it is. They lost. And I'm not saying Georgia should be in. I think under the same logic they used to get Alabama in, they could have put Georgia in instead of Washington, because who's not going to watch Georgia and Texas and Alabama and Michigan? Like, the whole world's going to watch that. If that, just say what you want. We want money. We want
Yeah,
viewers,
I mean,
You know, going.
I would
which
rather,
is money.
I would rather
So
them
this
say
is the
that.
teams we're putting
You know,
in.
I would
it's
rather
like-
them
Get
it's like-
over it.
Yep.
It's like dealing with a racist. It's like, guys, you're gonna just sit there.
Slurry.
Wait a
We're getting
minute.
a little slurry.
Well, listen.
Oh, off the top rope.
Yeah,
It's like when you're dealing with somebody, you're like, you seem a little racist, but you're trying to hide. I'd rather you just come out and let me know that you're just a piece
So
of
you can high
crap.
five him.
Yeah.
You know, just
Okay, like a bigot.
yeah, just come out and
It
say
could
it.
just
Just
not
come out
be
and do it.
race.
Just don't try to hide behind this facade that you're this good guy and this noble person. No, you're a piece of crap.
Because they got a
and
black
just admit
friend.
it. Yes, because they got
Is
one.
that what I am to
'cause
you?
Everybody
I know a
got
black guy.
That's it.
They got a pack in their lives, you know.
Got a few extra tenders.
Yeah, and another thing I want to say about, you know, the whole, so what's the difference between Georgia and Alabama? 3 points on a neutral site.
Correct.
Okay, so you're going to say Florida State with a second string quarterback is in between those two is maybe 1.5 points worse than Alabama, that's ludicrous.
Yeah.
If you're thinking that Florida State is that much worse and cannot make it into the playoffs and doesn't really even stand a chance against top 4,
But they're better than Georgia.
but they're somehow better than Georgia, you rank them 9th,
Right.
10th, 11th. I don't care. You know, make it obvious that saying, okay, we really don't think this team is anything with Jordan Travis, so we're going to take him out.
Yes.
Yeah.
They could have done the same thing with Bama and Texas and moved them up. To your point, could have moved them up and had them at 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And then that now you've already ranked them, so it's a you can justify the winning you're in.
Mm-hmm.
Because nobody's talking about Texas. They boat raced an 18th ranked team and somehow jumped, 4 spots.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, and if anybody's been listening, I'm a huge Mike Gundy fan, and I think he
He's
will
a
pull.
man.
He is
He's
a man, just like our gracious host on this podcast. Anyway,
One more week.
Gundy will pull a rabbit out of a hat and beat a good team every so often, but I don't think they are a consistently good team. So you just rewarded Texas for beating a middle-of-the-road team.
I don't think they even rewarded them. I think they could not justify
had
to
to.
themselves.
They were always
Having
going to be in
Alabama-
front of
yeah.
Alabama.
Yes.
But either way, they're going to say, well, they just boat raced the 18th ranked team
Right.
that had beat Oklahoma and this and that and the third, and so we put them in. You know, like Nick's saying, just tell me what's on your mind and move along. What they're taking it on the shins because they don't want to say the truth, and so it's coming across as hypocritical. That's the problem I have. Even our favorite Alabama fan, McXcuse, is saying this is tied to money.
Oh yeah.
Even the guy that's happy, smiling like the cat with a canary in his mouth, is saying this is money, and we all know it is. And we're still going to watch.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like you can't just sit there and you're not going to make an impact. You have to give into it. That's why Florida State has to leave the ACC
I was going to
yesterday.
ask you that. Are they going to? The boosters going to come together? And,
So the rumor
Go ahead.
the rumor right now is that there's some sort of meeting with the Board of Trustees January 31st, and that's when they're going to be making the decision. Is what the rumor is.
Because they owe a ton of money if they leave. Right?
Yes, it's hundreds of millions of dollars. But here's the thing: is that if there are a certain amount of schools that leave the ACC, I think it's like 6 or 7. The conference just dissolves and nobody sends their money. Nobody has to pay any sort of exit fee. So that's why they haven't actually come out and announced it yet, because really wherever Florida State goes, Clemson's going to go.
Correct.
Yeah, but didn't they already
And-
have this argument before the season? They tried to do the coup,
Well, yeah, but
and they tried to get Clemson, Florida State. Well, who was the other two?
That was
North Carolina State.
North Carolina State,
Yeah.
Virginia Tech, Miami, I think are like the 7. I think they call it the Magnificent 7.
But they voted to not leave, right?
Well,
not
so
to-
here's the thing: is that they cannot have those conversations openly, and
Oh, here we
or else
go.
they will get a lawsuit up their
Okay.
butt. They have to, if they're gonna do it, they got to do it, wham bam, in like matter of days, and just do it.
Okay.
But if the ACC knows that there are teams having these meetings and discussions about leaving the conference and we're doing this and that, ACC is going to sue the heck out of them because you're in violation of our grant of rights, and you're stuck in this contract till 2036.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, so like I said,
Oh, we just scrolled down.
Just scroll down.
Oh, we got more.
all right.
Golly.
So like I said,
CNN living up to his name.
So
He's
start-
carrying the show.
so starting in 2024,
No
Big
doubt.
Ten set to make $80 million. SEC's set to make 72. ACC teams are set to make $42 million each. So if you fast forward to 2036, when the Florida State can actually say, "All right, see you guys, we're going somewhere else," they are $456 million behind all the SEC teams and Big Ten teams.
And what's the buyout?
The buyout is probably $500-600 million.
Yeah, the math is.
Yeah.
You have to get out
Yeah.
now, because that's what the committee's told you, is that you're not Big Ten or SEC, so we can't put you in. Has nothing to do with
The team
the
itself.
team. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you had a great season, Florida State. It just sucks you're in the spot and you're in the crosshairs. We got to have Alabama in.
So pretty much we're going to be, don't we all agree, in the next 10 years, we're just going to have 2 super conferences
Absolutely.
that play at the end of the year?
Yeah, it's going to be.
In some form or fashion.
It's going to be
some
the
tournament at the end of the year.
It's going to be the SEC, Big Ten. They're going to say F you to the NCAA and create their own thing, because where's the NCAA been in this? They've
why-
done nothing to
Why
regulate
is the NCAA
all of
still
this.
heralded? I think it's because of the smaller sports at this point. It's not because of
Yeah.
football.
Yeah, I would. I don't know though, because you can build an entire sports program off of the revenue from football.
You can. I don't understand why they haven't done this. I guess maybe it's been done so long, it's hard to break away and do something new, but I don't understand why the NCAA still has.
Because what the NCAA should have done is, as soon as they got wind of Texas and Oklahoma leaving the Big 12 for the SEC, you knew it was done. You knew that, okay, the college football as we see it, as across, like having 5 conferences, is done.
Yes.
And the NCAA should have came in and said, can't do this. I know this is good for you, Texas and Oklahoma. You're going to make tons of money, but this is bad for the sport.
But then wouldn't that just sped up the exodus from the NCAA?
Yeah, but it made it a lot harder because now you're starting to get these 2 conferences together with millions and actually billions of dollars.
Yeah.
And they're going to see how successful, because I'm not an Oklahoma or Texas fan, but I'm excited about them being in the conference. Like, just different opponents for more quality opponents for Georgia to play, which I think is going to. We'll get that in a different episode. I was looking at the schedule because of the Mile High Man gets married next year during the season. So
Hi, Terry.
But I was looking at the schedule for next year and just how it changes putting those teams in, and it's good for a football fan. I'm excited about it. So I think that bringing more excitement to bigger games, more bigger games each year for each school to have. That's the way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, like, you know, it'd be awesome, like, if Florida State goes to the Big Ten or something, having those Florida State, Michigan, Florida State, Ohio State, or Georgia and Texas.
I mean, just think about next year.
And, I mean, that's gonna
Oregon,
be
Michigan,
awesome.
Oregon.
You done lost credibility with me now, Nick. You know where they're going. They're going to the SEC.
Florida State?
Absolutely.
You know, I'll take either one.
They're going to cherry pick they've already done it.
So I would much rather have the SEC pick up Florida State, but I don't think that the SEC necessarily wants Florida State in terms of, because they already have Florida right there. They already have the Florida market. But what I think the SEC could do, and they probably should do, is the Big Ten wants Florida State, I think. But the SEC could say, well, we would rather, we don't want the Big Ten to have Florida State right here in the Southeast.
Right.
We don't want them to have them, so we'll take them just to keep them from the Big Ten.
Yeah,
having them.
absolutely.
Yeah, so would Clemson follow as well?
Yeah, wherever Florida State goes, Clemson follows, and probably Miami.
We'll go to our South Carolina insider at the end of the table.
Yeah, I think that's like Nick said, the money, for all the money, and it's a done deal.
And
Yeah.
Florida State, Clemson, I mean, they are the foundation of the ACC. You can talk about Duke and North Carolina basketball; they do not drive the revenue. So between Florida State and Clemson, just those two, they drive 24% of the revenue for the conference as a whole. That's 2 of 14 teams.
Mhm.
Okay?
Yeah.
They each get a distribution of 7%.
Yeah, the man did his homework.
Oh, I did. I was angry all week, guys. I was angry.
I think you came
I
to be
could
a guest
see-
on the wrong show, making us look dumb.
Yeah,
Well, and it's just, and I'm tired. I hate the ACC so much because it's just run by a bunch of idiots. So another thing is like,
Bring it.
I know, man. I'm sorry. I'm just on a roll right now.
Come
so
on,
like,
Nicholas.
I'm just trying to save
the
your
fact
wife
that they added
from all the
Cal.
conversation.
Oh, she's been hearing it, and she does not care.
God bless
Especially she's a Georgia fan. She's not. She just likes Florida State enough to keep me happy.
Shout out to the dogs.
That's right. So ACC just added Cal, Stanford, and SMU.
Right.
Are those football powerhouses?
No, they're
No,
not.
not at all. But you know what they are, if you ask the ACC? They are fine educational institutions.
They are. They did come out
And
and say that.
and when they were looking at bringing them on board, Florida State and Clemson said, no, absolutely not. They bring nothing to the table. They're on the West Coast.
Brings more
and
travel
they're-
expense.
But, yeah, exactly. And you know what school was driving the conversation? Notre Dame, who's not even a full-fledged ACC member in football.
Correct.
Screw you, Notre Dame.
Well, the same.
Rudy.
I would love to say that, and I know Sleezy is
Not a
pumping his
fan.
fist to the Notre Dame.
That's right.
But yeah, they're independent in football. CNN. Everything else, they're ACC.
Yeah.
But
we
they're
don't get-
independent in football for the same reasons that you just made for the SEC going to be the big bad wolf or whatever. Big Ten's up there too.
Yeah.
I think it is $8 billion to the conference.
Mm-hmm.
And then like you were divvying it up per team, I just want to give our beautiful listeners the full grand scope of that. We're talking about conferences getting billions just in football.
Exactly.
Or viewership in football.
It's a moneymaker. It's what drives everything.
It is. And in 2013, you know, Maryland back in the day used to be an ACC school.
Correct.
Mhm.
Maryland leaves in 2013. God, I wish we went with them. But they leave, and who does the ACC want to bring on board to take their place? UConn. What the heck does UConn bring to the table in terms of football?
Good
Nothing.
basketball school.
They got a good
Great
basketball school. They're a great basketball school and a fine educational institution. Florida State and Clemson had to step in and say, absolutely not. So they had to settle on Louisville, which is a pretty decent football school. They will at least invest into football. UConn won't.
Papa John's canceled.
Yeah.
Used to be Papa John's Stadium.
So the
He
ACC
did
is a
get
joke.
canceled. He was obviously
It was a hot mic moment, wasn't it?
It was.
a bigot, like Nick
Yeah,
said. He
so
should
one
have
of
just come
Nick's
out.
folks.
Yeah, he should have just come out and said it long before that.
Yeah, it's an interesting. College football is going to be very interesting going forward. The way it's driven by money, TV. As a fan, I think it's good. I think it's good because it's going to get more big games. Now, is it necessarily good? I don't know how to explain this right. Is it necessarily good for how they're going to determine, who's deserving? Basically, it's going to come down to 20 schools every year fighting for the 12 spots, in my opinion.
Mhm.
So,
It should come down to 40 at the end of the day when you have two 20-team conferences, I think.
But what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
really, it's going to come down to 20 because even if you have those 40 teams, there's going to be those perennial people that aren't competitive. So, you're just going to be cycling them in and out. It's still going to be good. In my opinion, it'll be good matchups.
Yeah, it'll definitely be fun.
But as it stands right now, it's just not fair to everybody.
No, I mean it's fine for the schools that are already either in the Big Ten or SEC, but for like the schools that are name brand blue blood teams that just aren't there yet, it sucks for them because they're trying to find a home in one of those two, and every year that goes by is $80 million less.
So here's an interesting question, kind of related, not related. Can a Vanderbilt ever be competitive?
No,
Why not?
2 reasons. One, they don't invest in football.
Get your notes up.
Notes.
No, I don't need notes for this.
Okay.
Oh,
All right.
boy.
One, they don't invest in football, and two,
Correct.
the academic standards for Vanderbilt are too
That's
high.
a good point. All right, so let's switch that then to
Oh,
Kentucky.
here we go.
Same.
Can
What do you
Kentucky
mean?
ever be competitive?
I need him
No.
to unpack what he means by the academic standards are too high.
I couldn't get into Vanderbilt.
Okay. So we're talking about all people
Yes.
not being able to get in.
Yes.
They do have higher standards.
They do.
It's a great school.
It's like Duke. I mean, it's tough to get into Duke. I mean, it's just it's just Georgia Tech.
Because
It's tough to get into Georgia Tech.
I don't know
I was
if I
trying
want
to
to get into
trip
this.
them
Aren't
up.
there backdoor methods to get into like
Yes.
Georgia with like very weak scores?
Oh, I'm sure. But there's still a difference between the Georgia type schools, the Florida State type schools, where you can find those back doors, where Vanderbilts and Dukes of the world are still driven by, academics is huge in their
Yeah,
in what
I
they
agree.
do. So, but it's all about investing in football.
So to switch this question, and y'all can chime in as well. Doesn't have to be the note taker. Do you think Vanderbilt has any financial motive to be good at football? They're getting a check for being in the
I was just gonna
conference.
say,
Exactly.
what's the desire? For
Exactly.
them to invest?
Why invest? 10% of your athletic budget in football when you get a payout of, 9% every year. Why do that? I'm still going to get a $80 million check at the end of the year, whether we're good or not.
So do you think do any of y'all think that with the realignment coming and all that, that just because Vanderbilt's in the SEC now, that they will always be a part of that?
Be
Yeah.
part of.
The SEC going forward. I think eventually they're going to break away from the NCAA and create this football superpower of conferences. But they're a member of the big conference, so will they just be kind of grandfathered in? Still get that check.
Yeah, I would have to think somewhere you have to competitively award money. But they're already talking to Congress. The conferences are talking to Congress. Let me make that clear. So I think there's, to use the backdoor terminology, I think there's already stuff going on that we don't know about.
Probably so. So what about this new model they've came out with to directly, which I don't understand the big difference. I haven't read. They're going to directly pay, or they want to directly pay athletes through this NIL. The schools right now.
Almost
It's
like a contract.
Yes. So right now, the way it is, these kids are paid to go to Georgia, but it's not through the school.
Mm-hmm.
is through their name, image, and likeness. This NIL that everybody keeps talking about, but the schools are lobbying for
To just pay them.
to just pay them because it's just a buffer. That's all it is. It's the school.
Right.
Because who's going to pay them if they come to the school? The boosters
Right,
who
this-
give to the school.
This is like to me, and how it makes sense in my head, hopefully it'll make sense to the beautiful listeners and our esteemed panel here, is we're kind of like between how it used to be done,
Yes.
where it had to be in a back room somewhere,
$500 handshake.
right, with like a random money bag under the third rock, you know, with blue spray paint on it or whatever the case may be.
Right.
Now we're transitioning to where we can do some stuff that we were doing in the light, but we still want to have that. I think Georgia calls it, one of them is the Classic City Collective
Yes.
or whatever, so some private entity that
So
we can
you
just
can-
dump money into.
And you can go donate. They are.
They got a Venmo.
They
got
do,
it all.
and I'm pretty sure you can write it off on your taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty sure. It's like a charitable donation.
Yep.
But you can go give money to this Classic City Collective here in Athens. Every school has one.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the one in Georgia is called. And then that money that you give doesn't go to the university. It goes to the NIL. So it goes to the players to
Right.
pay them to come. It's very interesting when Rule, what's his first name?
Matt Rule?
Matt Rule. He's the coach of Nebraska. Came out with his end of the year, his first year there at University of Nebraska. Came out with his end of the year press conference.
1.5.
Yeah, was talking about getting a quarterback through the transfer portal, which is a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
So now kids can transfer because they feel like it. Used to be you had to have a hardship, you had to have something going on, something real going on. Justin Fields made something up. We won't get into that.
And you have to sit out a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had to sit out a year. Now you're a free agent. And he said a good transfer portal quarterback costs
1.5 to 2.
$1 million. And nobody was aghast at that. They were
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, all right.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we're at in college football.
Yeah, that's where Beck's going to stay, and I guarantee you that's why.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's
that's-
basically the NFL.
Yeah, it's
Just say
the NFL minor leagues.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
And I'm not necessarily against this because it's 33 Division I football schools. Like 5 or 6 of those are going to be starting quarterbacks every 4 years. Like 5 or 6 of those are going to be
I
very
get what
rich
you're saying.
quarterbacks
the low
in the
percentage.
NFL. So this is a time for them to make money on their athletic prowess because they are great athletes. They're just not going to be NFL great. So they can make, and a lot of these players come from poor backgrounds, so it's a time to make money for their family and their future as they are giving a lot of their
Like
life,
time.
time, life, physical wellness to do this. So I'm not necessarily against it. It's just a weird landscape coming from where I grew up, where A.J. Green, great wide receiver for the Bulldogs, got suspended for several games for selling his own jersey that he was given from a bowl game.
Look at Reggie Bush. I mean,
Reggie Bush had to give his Heisman back.
Yeah.
Quote unquote.
yeah.
Had to give it. I'm sure he gave it back.
And with this,
A hot
the
bag
NIL,
of dog turd or something.
yeah. And with the NIL, it is fun. It is fun for fans because, like, you and I, we all grew up with, college kids staying there for 4 years and then they go to the NFL and they don't start till they're a junior in college.
Correct.
That was always great to see. You get to see somebody stick it out and play. And now, and then like in the late 2000s to up until about a couple years ago, you were having kids coming out and they're leaving as redshirt sophomores
Correct.
and not getting drafted.
Yes.
And it was really annoying because you're having all these kids go to the draft and like, why are you going to the draft? And they're like, I got to take a chance and try to make money.
Yeah.
I have to. I can't stay in school. I got family that are, living in poverty. I have to go try to make some sort of money.
Yeah.
But now that you have an NIL, these kids have more of a reason to stay in school.
Yeah, a lot
and
of them are going to make more money.
Yeah.
A lot of them are going to make more money through NIL for 4 years than they're going to make because they're not going to stay in the league more than 2 years.
Or staying and playing another year if you're not going to be a high end. Let's say you excuse me, play the quarterback position.
Sounding great. Go ahead.
And you're not going to be
Yes.
a first round draft pick,
Correct.
This draft, but maybe next year you're one of the top quarterbacks coming out. It's more financially beneficial for you to stay.
And according to Matt Rule, if you're a really, really good college quarterback, $6 to $7 million.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's great money as a college athlete.
Now, what these players also have to learn is the art of the deal, because you're seeing 1,300 players in the transfer portal right now.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous, and you're seeing kids transfer left and right, and most of them are not going to a place that has greener pastures.
But do you think they're making more money doing that? So like DJ Ukulele, or however you say his name.
Ooey-lungalale.
No, easy, Nick. Ooey-lungalale.
Ooey-lungalale?
Ooey-lungalale.
Look at that loose tongue over there.
Makes
So
him quiver.
he started out in Clemson for 3 years, transferred to Oregon State,
Corvallis.
started for 2 years, and got a 6th year because everybody plays 10 years in college football these days. So he has a final year that he's now a free agent. I don't know if he's signed yet or not, but he's a free agent. I think he makes more money doing that because he's an established quarterback than he does staying in Oregon State.
But I do think he's the exception, not the rule.
Okay,
Because you'll see like some defensive end or safety or something that's going to put in for the transfer portal, but they have no leverage. So they're going to these collectives and saying, "You're paying me $400,000 this year. Well, I'm worth $800,000.
Yeah.
Well, what makes you think that? Well, I had a good season. Cool. We're gonna still keep paying you that because you have a contract. Well, I'm just gonna go to a different school and make more money." And then they go to these new schools and they're not.
Yeah, that's,
It's like if we were to go to any one of our bosses and say, "We need more money because we think we're doing well," they're gonna say, "Cool. See you later." But if you go in there and say, "Look, I got this other job offer and they're wanting to pay me this much. And if you think I'm so valuable, you need to hit this mark." Now you have leverage against them.
Prematurely doing it.
Yes.
But are they even allowed to talk? I don't know the rules.
Yeah, they're allowed to talk to the NIL.
That is how, I think I can say this now, that is how we, as in the Georgia Bulldogs, lost Bear Alexander to Southern Cal. Which Nick's bringing up a good point. I'm just giving you a name as an example.
Well, give us the story there.
He asked for more money, and they said no, so he left.
So he was a heralded prospect, or signee to Georgia. Only stayed a year.
5-star defensive tackle.
I just wanted to give everybody the background.
My bad. Thank you, Sleezy. 5-star defensive tackle. I would imagine. I think he's in state, but I'll need to be fact checked on that. But number 99, and had a fabulous game in the national championship. I think he had sporadic playing time, and that's kind of what Nick's saying is.
So he pivoted off that good game. And asked for more.
Went to the coach, because I guarantee you the coaches are involved in this.
Oh, 100%.
And
allegedly.
So, like Nick's saying, there was some probably conglomerate meeting between private sector, some kind of representative from the school. I'm sure all that gets funneled back to the coach so they can make the final decision. And so they said, "This is what we're paying you. It's not changing," and so that's why he transferred to Southern Cal. Because it was a head scratcher to me because he was on the field, a good player, a young player. This is a great place that develops defensive linemen. You've just won a national championship.
But he got a pay raise, what you're saying.
But he got a pay raise.
And this NIL is real because being here local in the Classic City, I have seen things and talked to people in the...
Just look at the cars they're driving.
Correct. And I've heard and seen the pockets full of cash that these young men walk around with. Not hating on them, I'm just saying this is a real thing. They're getting paid a lot of money to play football. And they are young, 18, 19, 20-year-old guys. You're going to flaunt it. And they flaunt it. So it's a real thing.
And I think it's all gonna figure itself out in the end, because like I said, these kids don't understand what leverage is yet, except for like the big players who will get multiple offers from other schools. But your regular defensive end who had a decent year, who's just gonna go to another school because he thinks he's gonna make more money. I think you're gonna start seeing less and less kids in the transfer portal because they know they have to get that leverage. They have to bring that leverage to the table. But a lot of those kids aren't doing that.
And I think to protect the kids, sometimes you got to put a little bit of rules on that transfer portal.
Yeah.
It's too easy right now. You don't have to make an excuse now. Like Justin Fields had to claim racism from the 600 section of Sanford Stadium that it affected him, a racial slur that he never heard because the kid was so high up. It shouldn't have been said, obviously, but he used that as a reason to transfer to Ohio State when he did. Now you don't have to do that. You don't have to make up anything. Just do it.
Yeah, some of this has to be legislated out, but
And we'll see. And you know what? At the end of the day, the people that have the money are going to make the rules because they're going to figure out we're kind of paying too much money. So let's clamp this down. That's what it's going to come down to. They're going to try to save money and clamp down and do it all in the rules of fair academic, athleticism for these institutions or something.
Well,
I just made up a bunch of words and put them together. They're going to say something even worse than that.
Yeah, I think all of y'all are bringing up collective bargaining. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's out in the open in the professional ranks.
Yeah.
But that's where it's going, to me.
It's going to be
because this happens. Your point of minor league baseball. This happens. A guy, my man, Doo Donaldson, went to the Cape Cod League to use CNN's term, use that as a buffer to get drafted higher and to get more money, because he just told the Chicago Cubs, if you don't take me in such and such a spot, I'm going to go to the Cape Cod League. If I have a better year here, then you're going to have to pay me more money. And he bet on himself, quote unquote, and was having a fabulous year, and so they paid the money. And so 3/4 of the way through the year, he was gone in the minor leagues for the Cubs as a catcher and a third baseman. And like I said, and Nick also said it, is this is top tier. Yep. Guys that have been this good almost since birth, they can bet on themselves. I like the stories, and I think we all do, underdog stories, whatever you want to call it, where someone's a late bloomer. Shout out to our girl we were talking about earlier.
Jen Sturger.
Jen Sturger. But yeah, that's the stories I like, is where, and Pack said it, somebody waits their turn, they develop, and then they burst on the scene. There's a thing floating around about Cooper Kupp, because Cooper Kupp went to a tiny school, several
wide receiver for the Rams.
Right, number 10. If he stays on track and stays healthy, probably a Hall of Fame wide receiver, but went to Eastern Illinois, I think.
Eastern Washington.
There you go. And
it's in his notes.
Yeah, there you go. It's a red and black uniform with a bird. That's all I got out of it.
Nest.
But a bird in the nest. Shout out Big Brain. But anyway, I'm getting chopped off at the knees by Sleezy. But yeah, those are the stories I like, where someone had to work for it versus always being God's gift.
Correct. But I also think Brock Vandergriff, just transferred to Kentucky. He was the backup quarterback to Carson Beck this last year. Mm-hmm. Like he has only so many years left, and he's not going to get the playing time.
Right. Yeah.
That's also hard to argue. Yeah. Like he needed to transfer because he's a decent quarterback and he needs a chance to prove himself.
Right.
Getting mop up time at the end of the game because he didn't beat out Carson Beck, who's better than him.
And that kid come from Buford is probably gonna be better than him.
Yeah,
Dylan Ravioli. I call him Ravioli.
So that's interesting.
Ravioli.
I could talk about this stuff all day. We do have a couple other things to get to before it becomes midnight. Pack is ready to go to bed, so we're going to get this thing rolling.
Yeah, DJU is crystal balled or forecasted, maybe a better term for our listeners, to the U.
Okay.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Pack. We had a little conversation last night about the marathon coming up.
I gotta remember.
The marathon relay. Mama Sleezy has called us out. Said that she thought she was behind training for the marathon, and she'd only done 4 miles the other day. And PackMan and I looked at each other and said, "Only 4 miles. We have not topped the 3 mile. Well, we did the 3 mile mark twice now. Once in the race and once the other day.
I was gonna say, we don't get 4 miles in a week, much less a day.
So we were with Handsome Dave, the fourth leg of this marathon relay.
Yeah.
And the Duchess of Winterville,
yes,
his wife.
Oh, they were both dashing last night.
She called him out and said he hadn't practiced at all. She was very disappointed.
He's just naturally athletic.
Yeah, I know.
He will just show up and
That's
run
what
the whole
he said.
thing.
But so we're gonna get
You seen that man play softball?
I've seen him.
Man.
Yeah. So we got to get our training in gear. We've only got almost a month.
Yeah, 1 month.
Just want to bring that up on the record so that everybody can call us out that we need to get training because Mama Sleeves is going to run circles around it. We might let her run 23 of the miles.
Yes, I think so. She can run like my leg of the relay.
There you go.
Yeah.
But that does bring up another point I want to get to. CNN is the head coach, general manager,
Skipper.
equipment guy,
player manager.
I'm basically the Pete Rose of our outside of the gambling because
of
I'm
the
not good
softball
at it.
team.
Of the
Yes.
softball team, so
Hey.
I'm the GM and coach and babysitter of the softball team.
Correct. And who's your best player?
Depends on who shows up. You
When
know,
everybody shows up,
when
who's your best
everybody-
player?
The best ability
you know,
is availability.
Sheriff's up there. I will say he is quite the softball player over there.
Is one of his
Fake
one of
news.
his attributes, like if he was on a video game, his attribute of availability and on time would be a 0.
Yeah, and if it could be in the negatives.
Like the podcast. Oh, my Madden
No,
rating
no.
for punctuality.
No,
That
so
would be a-
for our
shout out
listeners,
Scott Bobby.
I send out a text message every Saturday. So guys, we play games on Mondays and Tuesdays. I send out a text message on Saturdays to make sure everybody's able to play. Sheriff is always one of the first people to say that he can play and he will be there, or at least he will let me know ASAP.
He wants to.
And oh, absolutely, he wants to. And then come Monday or Tuesday, he texts me about an hour before the game and says, "My kid's got a baseball game. Sorry, I can't make it." As if like he didn't know his kid had a baseball game on Saturday.
Shout out to the Mudcats.
Yeah, chances are that I didn't know. The planning.
And so, because of this, because we're on like our 3rd year of softball, I always get an extra guy when I know Craig says yes, just in case.
Yeah, the family planning falls under big brain, so that's my bad. I am consistent.
Which I am appreciative of Big Brain when he does come out,
Of
because I
course.
know that Craig is a family man, loves his kids, and coming out to play with the boys and play a girls game really is a
He's the
big
best
deal.
at, so.
He's very
Shout
good.
out.
Him and his gardening gloves are wonderful.
Very large. I would be a very large woman, that's for sure.
So I got a question here from our listener from up north, Big Dave from Erie, Pennsylvania. He has a would you rather question.
I love these.
So you can substitute the Seminoles or whatever for this question there, CNN. But
Mhm.
would you rather score a game-winning touchdown in a national championship game for the Dogs, or hit a game-winning home run for the Braves in Game 7 of the World Series? So you can substitute the Rays and the Seminoles if you would like to.
Oh, it'd be baseball. Either way, for me it's baseball. Because I mean,
Okay.
I grew up playing baseball. I was a baseball player, and
Yeah.
hitting a home run is there's nothing like it.
Most fun I've ever had with clothes on. That's correct.
I think because it's a individual moment, and I think Pack would choose it because it's individual. The
And
home run.
I could pimp that
Pimp
home run
it.
for 15 minutes.
Oh, you'd be pimping that for a week.
You know, the game-winning touchdown in a national championship would be awesome, but you know, it's a very team sport. It would be awesome, but if we're choosing between the two, I take the limelight.
Yeah.
And
And one is a professional sport and one is.
Are we talking about what is more realistic? Or?
No, we're just talking about what you'd rather do. And then to caveat that, throughout your illustrious athletic careers, do you have any moments that you will always, tell your grandkids one day throughout your playing career of anything?
Yes, actually.
Okay.
So most people they hit their prime when they're like 22, 23 years
I'm
old.
still waiting to hit mine.
Well, I hit mine at like 11. Okay, that is when I was in prime physical condition. I may have been only 80 pounds, but it was 80 pounds of pure athleticism. Okay, guys, and when I was 10 years old, so the way All Stars worked in Little League, I don't know if it still does this way. You have your 9-10 All Stars, and then you have your 11 and 12 All Star team. 11,
Still
12,
the same.
Still the same. So,
Correct.
well, it was 10, 11, and 12, I think is what it was. And the 10, 11, and 12 team, that's the team that goes to Williamsport to play in the Little League World Series.
Okay.
Well, I was 10, and I got picked for the 10, 11, 12 team, and I was the only 10-year-old in the entire league to get picked for that. So that was my big,
Baller.
look at me, guys, all 80 pounds of me. And did I play much? Absolutely not. But I was there, and I had the uniform. The
Okay.
uniform may have took up my whole back, the numbers did, but, I was there.
Good. Okay.
Jen Sturger was swooning.
Very proud of me. Very proud.
I don't have. I got nothing.
You've made plenty of.
He's ready to go to sleep.
You know what?
He's ready.
Actually, I have one for you that I don't even know what game it was or what season. I think it was 2 seasons ago where PackMan, when he plays softball, he just likes to run.
That I do.
And,
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
everybody can be telling him You know, if you're good, they got the ball, and he's
boy.
going to try to take an extra base.
Every
And,
single time. Yeah.
one of those games, he ran home for some reason.
I was coaching third.
Yeah.
He was on first base, and we were down by like 1 or 2 or something like that. And I told Sean is a very fast, or Pack is very fast.
Yeah, Sean
Yeah.
is fine.
And I knew I could trust him on the bases up until this point.
He is very fast.
And I
would not
yelled-
say I trust him at all.
Yeah.
Again, this was 2 seasons ago. And I'm at third base, coaching third base, and I yell over to Pack, and I'm like, hey, be aggressive out there.
Say less.
Apparently, he interpreted that as a ball that doesn't leave the infield, that he's going to try to score from first base.
That's all right.
And I will give it to him. He did.
He did.
Yeah,
I
with the
think
slide.
Yeah, with the slide.
he caught everybody by surprise, including me.
They're like, no way, this dude's running.
Yeah.
But he scored, and he said he had it under control the whole time. I don't know if I believe
I
that.
would have said way. I would have said no way. You know, Pat, you would have said way. He is going.
That's right.
He is all gas and no brake.
That's
That's
right.
it.
Sheriff, you got one?
Do I have to come up with one?
You don't have to.
Probably getting my towel pulled from an outdoor shower in the Cape Cod League.
That's your athletic
And
memory.
that's the one I know you wanted me to slide in. Cause if anybody's familiar with Cape Cod, Massachusetts, it is a beautiful place to be in the spring and summertime, and so you're looking at 70s or 80s during the day, and it does rain kind of unpredictably like the South. You know, with being so close to the water, what have you. But a lot of people have a lot of money, and they spend that on outdoor showers, and so I was taking an outdoor shower. I don't think I took an indoor shower the whole summer, and so I came out in the buff with just a towel on, and our aforementioned Doo-Doo Donaldson pulled my towel.
This is Josh Donaldson, the Major League ball
Correct.
player. Played for the Braves
2015.
back in 2019.
Played for the Brewers at
I
the end
had-
of the season.
I think he's played for every team by now.
He was in the celly.
Very
Yes,
good
he
player.
has. He was the 2015 American League MVP. He's a stud. And he didn't smoke any left-handed cigarettes. He didn't drink, so he was a great designated driver for my vehicle. And everybody loved me because I actually had a vehicle. Obviously, most of the southern gentlemen that are really, really good at baseball, way better than me, were flying in or what have you, or obviously a lot of guys from out west too, but they were hiding in wait when I was coming up to the French glass doors to get back into the house. And so they pulled the towel, there I am, naked as a jaybird, and
Say bird in
every
the nest.
time they saw me for the first time of the day, whether that be morning wake up or some of the guys had a job, I can't remember what our job was, but Alan Jackson song Little Bitty became my nickname and my theme song, because it's all right to be a little bitty, which that's one of George's own. But no, I had I think Rye the kayak guy would be familiar with the school because his school is right next to it, but there was one weekend at Shorter College in Rome, Georgia,
Okay.
in the Southern States Athletic Conference, where I think I blacked out, maybe like Pack with the Just for Man, and turned around and I was like 6 for 6 with 4 home runs
Oh, 4 home runs.
in a doubleheader. So
Inside the park or over the fence home
now
run?
these were
No doubters.
it's probably been about 33 years CNN since I've had an inside the park home run, and that was on a big field with no fence at all.
Now, did you play in the Cape Cod League?
I was a bullpen catcher
Okay.
when this was said to be, so not to go down a rabbit hole because Sleezy's trying to sign us off for the first time out of 12, but they have
It's a long goodbye.
the Cape Cod League and a lot of these other leagues have an invitation only for like a special 2-week contract. So even just to be a temporary player on this Cape Cod League, you have to try out. And again, you have to, it's not just like it's not like Leroy can just show up in his blue jeans. You have to have had a really good college season and be invited.
Mm-hmm.
So my brother and I were lucky enough to be invited, and they do try to use local guys if you can compete, because that draws family and, no different than here. you're going to support local sports or whatever. But so I went to the special 2-week tryout, and the coach said, he's a really raw player, and meaning he's not that good yet. And so the team was the Harwich Mariners in Harwich, Mass, of course, and I was their bullpen catcher. So it was super cool experience. And then I left because the coach was an absolute asshole. And so on I think it was a couple days after I got home, I had already asked my parents if they were okay with it, because they were pretty much sticklers about if you start something, finish it. And I just told them a few stories of what was going on, not the little bitty story, but stuff specifically with the coach and some hazing stuff going on and what have you. And they said, well, if there's that much immaturity and lack of leadership from the coach, then you can come home and get a summer job or whatever. But he called me like a week or two after being home and said, if you would have stayed, we would have signed you on to the active roster for the last 2 weeks. And if anybody knows anything about amateur collegiate baseball in the minor leagues, if you have even a couple days on the Cape Cod League where you're showing out, chances are it's probably going to escort you right into the professional ranks, just because the competition is so high. You know, you're talking, my brother was a special 2-weeker the year before, and got a chance to hit against Andrew Miller.
Oh, yeah.
Was a perennial all-star. I think
that's cool.
He's been everywhere. Tim Lincecum was there when my brother was there. So a lot of major league pitchers get their start, or kind of find their mojo, maybe not get their start in the Cape Cod League.
Yeah, Cape Cod's legit.
Yeah. Well,
so, not
it all worked out to have you sitting here with us.
Shining moment.
And some people would call it the Cape Cod League is the starting point for Athens Clark County softball.
Oh.
I mean, it's a funnel. I mean, we got Cape Cod straight to
funneling the talent.
Clark County softball.
That's it.
I got one little short question before we wind it down for starting our 12 goodbyes.
That's it.
Spicy Linda, fan of the show, wants to know, how do you find a date in 5 days? A lot of different ways on the female side. I don't think it's that hard. Quality date, that's a better question.
So, I got a funny story about how I found the quality with my current wife.
Go ahead.
All right. So, I was in a prior marriage before, and as I was getting back on the dating scene after 10 years, you know, that's tough. You know, it's for guys that haven't been on the dating scene for a while. It's tough, especially nowadays. So, I downloaded the good old Tinder and the Bumble and all those apps that were not that one. all the apps that were told to me. And, you know, you're supposed to swipe a certain way.
Okay.
Well, I was swiping the wrong way for a good about 2 weeks. And I started matching with some people I would normally not match with. Some folks that were not, were a lot, I would say larger people.
Oh, there we go.
Larger people that may have had a questionable past. And I was about to give up. Once I figured out I was swiping the wrong way, and then right the day before I was about to give up, my lovely wife swiped into my DMs.
Whoa!
And because it was on the Bumble, when that one is the girls have to message you first.
Oh, okay.
Not the guys. The girls have to do it. She messaged me. I tricked her into liking me, and then once I got her, I didn't leave her alone, and now we're here, married.
There you go, Spicy Linda. Get on that Bumble and make sure
you got to swipe the right way, though.
You got to swipe the right way.
Yeah, I'd be screwed.
Yeah, I was going to say, I have no idea.
And I was spending $20 a month to do these apps, and apparently they were free.
They cost money?
I thought they did. I thought that's what they were supposed to. And no, they were free. And I was spending $20
to the premium.
Apparently, I got I don't know what it was, but you know.
He hacked into the system.
Yes,
guaranteed.
Man.
Yeah, I'd be with Pamela and the Five Sisters, because I am terrible with a phone.
All right. Well,
terrible. But you gotta be good with a phone now to be.
Absolutely.
I think you have to these
on
days, because nobody just hangs out anymore.
If you want to get that whispering eye, you gotta get on the phone.
All right.
You can't just go sit at a bar and just hope something happens.
You can't do it.
Can't do it. You gotta be on your phone at the bar.
I would just be lonely, I think.
Yeah.
You be with Pamela too.
Hopefully y'all aren't fighting over the same one. All right.
That's it. A lot of venom getting shared. I want Nick to tell us how we get all these old whites to quit deciding this stuff for kids on the field. How do we fix it?
You talking about the playoff committee?
All the old whites.
First off, maybe you should do a background check. Well, maybe do a background check on the committee chair.
Okay.
Because guess who his brother-in-law is? The VP of production for ESPN.
Oh.
Tim Corrigan. So don't tell me he doesn't have a vested interest in ESPN and what ESPN wants.
Get the tinfoil hats out.
And maybe don't have the committee filled with a bunch of old white guys who have never played football before in their lives. Granted, they did have Jim Grove and a couple other coaches in there.
Grove.
He coached at Wake Forest.
Hey.
There was a couple black guys in there, right?
Yeah, and
I think there was one.
Research it.
I think there was one. I had it pulled up earlier.
It's not in your notes, in
but all I know is that only a couple of them were actually coaches. The rest were ADs that all have their own biases towards whatever they have.
I agree with that.
They had three black guys and one. I don't.
Thank you.
And it's just hard. It's just hard.
Make a call.
It's just hard for me to believe that like the coaches on that committee didn't stand up and say, "This is ridiculous, guys. Winning college football games is hard. It is the hardest thing to do, and whether you win by a bunch or you win by a little, especially if you're in one of these, 4 or 5 conferences, this is ridiculous that we're talking about putting a one-loss Alabama team that lost to Texas and just completely disregarding that wins and losses matter."
If you know anything about it being in this part of the country, if it's between you and Alabama,
Correct.
just go ahead and
Mail it in.
Get ready, because you are going to get violated.
Well, CNN, I appreciate you coming on. It's a very good conversation.
It was. I'm glad I
bringing
went
in
through most of
another
my
perspective from the ACC, who will probably be dissolved at some point in the future.
I hope
Good
so.
knowledge. Good
But
knowledge
the
and notes.
The notes were on point, and no, we do appreciate you coming.
I appreciate being here.
To the
Another guy got involved with the show and ended up on the table. Pause.
oh,
We were talking, I think our episode in between the underground and now, that if listeners get involved, they tend to show up on the show.
they tend to do that, but yeah. I agree. I don't have anything to add to that. I agree. But we appreciate you coming on with your perspective, because sometimes we can be a little bit of an echo chamber when it comes to SEC football and Georgia and all that. So it's good to have you on and get a different perspective. I do want to shout out for those of you who don't check out the video, or maybe some of the little clips I'm going to send out this week, make sure you look behind me at the beautiful artwork on the wall.
Yeah, I'm in the corner with a dunce cap on.
That's I think I saw that in the Louvre.
It's a masterpiece, and I couldn't be more proud of it. It's a, what is this called, Pack?
The Writer and His Sons, I think, is the name of the piece.
So Pack and them got.
How did I end up in the corner with the dunce hat?
Yeah,
You don't have on a dunce hat. You've got a doll that has a
Same
Who knows?
difference.
Who knows?
It's just a great picture. Our
With
faces
the
are on
smallest
it.
head.
Yeah, I think Pack and Sheriff and me have our heads on these bodies, and it's just a great picture. I put it on the Instagram. And
Not to scale, though. Not to scale.
I don't know there, itty bitty. So.
Yeah, we gotta check out the doll too for this time.
All right, but I do appreciate that. Everybody, appreciate everybody listening, and a dozen episodes. It's an accomplishment. So I do appreciate everybody that has listened and made it possible to have a dozen episodes to be listened to, because otherwise it'd just be us talking to these microphones. So I do appreciate everybody. We'll be back next week, God willing, and see if we can conjure up a guest.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see. But anything to add before we go, guys?
Thank you for seeing that.
I appreciate
Thank you,
being
listeners.
there.
Thank you. Check out this drink of the week, Gate City from Roswell. Maybe you might spice it into. Maybe if you go there, you'll stare into the eyes of your future soulmate.
That's it.
Maybe, allegedly.
Maybe.
He doesn't even know.
I don't know. We'll see. I know I went there. I think I went there.
Allegedly. All right. Well, we're going to get on out of here.